Hello everyone, Kent.Bressler here. I want to welcome you to Kent's Kidney Stories. During our time together over these podcasts, I'd like to discuss kidney disease. I'd like to tell you about my journey as a transplant patient, but also talk about dialysis, kidney donation, and just about anything else that might be of interest. Kent's Kidney Stories, podcast endorsed and sponsored by kidneysolutions.org. Hello everybody, this is Kent.Bressler, and we're going to do some podcasting. The first time I've ever podcasted in the evening, and so that won't make any difference because I can talk just as much then as I do in the daytime. So anyway, I have a couple that I've grown near and dear to, and they're going to be an interesting talk. So what we're going to do is start with our prayer, and then we're going to get right into it, and I'm going to introduce you to the Eckerts. Okay, let's pray. Dearest Lord, we have but one thing in mind tonight, and that's your grace. We know that on Monday you're going to roll out the virus vaccinations, and the whole world is changing with this COVID. But that we're not worried because we know we have you, and that's all we really need. So make this entire program tonight be about you and the service to others, especially to those who are sick and infirmed. We ask this all in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so tonight, the best thing about this is I get to talk to what I consider a very rare couple, a nice young couple, and Chance Eckert and his wife, Ashleigh Eckert. And they have a very interesting story. So I'm not going to do any chit-chatting with y'all tonight. We're going to talk to them. So here we go. Chance, Ashleigh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us. We're very excited to help you and do this with you. So,
okay, so here we go. We're going to jump right into it. Okay. Chance, what kind of you've got kidney disease, and yes, of course you had a transplant. So tell me what's your kidney disease?
Glomerular nephritis. I guess the idiopathic kind. I'm not 100% sure. The exact what they called it, but
they call it FSGS.
Yes.
Yeah. Same thing as me. So we're twins.
Yeah.
So here you go. You woke up one morning, and you could probably tell me a long story about how sick you were, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was. I was still in college, and woke up one morning. My legs were swollen like crazy. Had no clue what was going on. Couldn't find out. It was probably 6 months before we found out from a doctor that diagnosed it finally. So, it was a pretty long process in the beginning. I believe I was 19 whenever this all started. So.
Okay. And when did you guys get married?
We got married in 2018.
Wow. Okay. So you knew before you married Ashleigh, right? That you
Yes,
had
sir.
it? Okay.
Yep.
Ashleigh, did you know you were getting into this?
Well, I mean, I guess I always knew that at some point down the line there would be a transplant, but I didn't know that I was going to be the donor. So.
Okay. See, that's shocking to me. The whole thing revolves around finding somebody that really wants to. It really doesn't have anything to do with you have to. It's a want to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Chance, you never went on dialysis either, did you?
No, sir. My doctor was pretty adamant about getting me on there. I think I was at around 25% whenever he put me in touch with the transplant hospital. And then, it was 6 months later, 7 months later, something like that finally they decided to move forward. So
I got your name. I got you guys' name actually from a fellow that we had another plant, Jason Maurer from Fredericksburg.
Yep.
And his wife had a transplant. I worked with her. So he said, "Why don't you give this guy a call?" I said, "Why don't you have him give me a call, because I don't solicit." And that's what you did, right?
I sure did. I called right away. We had a ton of questions off the bat. I don't think I knew one other guy. I had met him through an axe retreat, 5-6 years ago, maybe even more. And he had a kidney transplant, and that's the only person I'd ever known. I don't know if she knew anybody at all, so we weren't too familiar with it.
So I know what it's like to ask somebody to marry you. What's it like to ask somebody to give you a kidney?
Well, to be honest, I do not like asking for help for anything, and it was the same way with the kidney. That was the hardest part for me, was asking anybody. I don't know if I even asked anybody. I think I told some people, and we had a few people that were interested in helping, and then she, as soon as she saw my health declining, she was right there, ready to be tested and everything else. So,
Ashleigh, go ahead? You were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say he never did ask. And in fact, he was pretty adamant that I wasn't the one who would donate to him. Not that he didn't want my kidney, but I just think that there was a lot of emotion involved, and I think he wanted me more so as like a rallying partner, more so than he did wanting me to go through, the unknown. And so he never did ask. Actually, I decided on my own and didn't even tell him until I had already contacted the transplant center. So
Did you test before you told him? Did you go and get tested?
No, but I did have my appointment in my 24-hour test at my house already before he knew. So
yeah.
Oh man, I got a bunch of questions to ask you. First of all, you guys don't have any kids, right?
No.
Okay, so that's an advantage, but I do know of spouses who have donated with kids involved, so that didn't make any difference. But when you decided to give him your kidney, did you guys talk about it? Did you really? You told him. Tell me what you told him when you were going to donate a kidney to it.
Well, I think that was his biggest concern. We weren't 100% sure. Like he said, we've never known anybody that had donated before. And so I wasn't sure if that would change my chances of being able to have kids in the future. And so I guess that was my biggest concern. And that was his biggest concern as well. So once I figured out that wouldn't really be a big issue, or that there's no real proof that is an issue in the future, then I 100% knew that that's what I was called to do. So I was driving home from my parents' house in San Antonio, and I called him and I said, "Hey, you have a donor." And he's like, "What are you talking about? You have a donor?" And I was like, "It's going to be me." Of course, I wasn't sure at that point, but I was definitely hopeful.
Okay, so if you back up a little bit here, you said, you're not worried about it. You guys will have children. That it's not giving a kidney to someone is not going to decrease or jeopardize your chances of having a live birth, right? So there you go. And that's important out there for people to know. And you as partners now, one giving a kidney to the other, that puts you on a real short leash, because you could answer a lot of questions to people. They got the questions you got answered. I know that involved in it, that's what we do at Kidney Solutions. We do a lot of answers and answer a lot of questions just because people do not understand it. And thus, it's great to have you. And I know that I think we're gonna be pals for a good while. I'm gonna put you to work. There's plenty of work, let me tell you, and it's fun work. So, okay, so all right, we're gonna do that. We're gonna move on with life. You're gonna do your life, and then we're gonna inject you into this whole process. Okay. So kind of give me some background. What kind of tests did you have to go through, Ashleigh?
So I did a 24-hour urine test right at the beginning. And then once I got cleared, they found that my GFR was just fine to be able to donate. I ended up doing a ton of blood work. Yeah. And then even before the 24-hour test, I did, it was a crazy amount. I couldn't even list the amount of testing that I did. I did like a psych eval. I spoke with social workers. They checked my lungs. They checked my heart. There was never a point where I was concerned that they would let me do it if I wasn't completely able to do it. So I definitely felt 100% safe going into surgery.
Okay, 100% safe with God's understanding, and His help, and that's exactly
Yes,
the
of
route
course.
you went. Okay, here's a question, and like I told you before, this is my podcast, so I can ask this, and if you don't want it, you don't have to answer it. How old are you guys?
I'm 28. She's just turned 26.
Wow, 28 and 26. Okay,
Yes,
most people haven't experienced anything like this until they get, pretty advanced. Chance,
Right.
you were very fortunate to have the audacity to just say, I'm just going to go on. I'm going to get this done because I really don't want to go on dialysis. Is that pretty much
yeah,
what
and
it is?
that was I think that was the thing when we got the news from my nephrologist that he wants to move forward with a transplant. Even 8 years ago when I was first diagnosed, doing my own research and everything, the likelihood of me having a transplant within the next 10 years was pretty high with the
Right.
disease that we have, and so. I knew it was coming at some point, didn't know when, and I had 8 years to prepare for it. And so I don't know if I was more excited or scared when he told me that it was finally time to get it over with and hopefully move on to the better parts of it. So,
Well, I imagine you were both. You knew
oh,
you
yeah.
had to do it, but you're scared. This is not
Oh,
an easy task. Everybody says, "I just have a transplant and you're fixed." You're not. You're not fixed. It's
right.
not a cure. A whole lot better than dialysis.
Yes, sir.
But I'm going to tell you that having your kidney coming from a living donor, I'm going to tell you what, you can look forward to it. If you take care of yourself,
Yes, sir.
you're going to have longevity with this kidney. Okay? Because it came from love and it came from a living donor. And you didn't have to do any dialysis before, because dialysis has a tendency that, as you well know, it makes it hard for you to do a successful transplant. You can do it, and that most people do, but I think it's better to be preemptively transplant. Get it before you go on dialysis. What's your thought on that?
Yes, I would say for sure. I mean, even though I was at 7% when I got transplanted GFR, it was awesome to be able to work the whole time. I didn't have to worry about working around a kid dialysis appointments and everything else. I worked up all the way to the week before my transplant. I was working. So
Tell them what you do. Tell the public what you do.
I'm a derrick hand in the oil field, so I work on a drilling rig. It's pretty intense work, 12 hours a day.
Oh my gosh! And yeah, that's it. That's very heavy physical work. You couldn't have done that on dialysis.
No,
All
it
right.
would be impossible. So.
And Ashleigh, what do you do? What's your career path?
I'm a 5th grade teacher.
Fifth grade. That's the
Yeah.
grade my grandson Colt's in. Oh wow, that's wonderful. Just read a book called Shiloh. We won't get off on a bunny trail. Have all your 5th graders read the book Shiloh. It's about a puppy. Yeah, remember that. Okay, so moving on. So when you got close, were you scared, Ashleigh? Were you kind of? I mean, it gets closer, like the day before, or when did you really realize this was going to happen?
Actually, it wasn't until I had been telling Chance, like, this doesn't feel real, because our surgery, I started doing my intensive testing in the very end of June, and we had our surgery July 17th. So it was so fast. And so I guess I went through like this nesting period, because I redid a whole bedroom. We laid down new floors and painted. And so I kept so busy. And then it wasn't until we were in the hospital about to be, put under anesthesia that I had a complete breakdown, because I was so scared, and I kept asking, did we pray enough? Did everybody pray over our doctors? Like, how many people are praying? So I don't know. I don't think it was until the day of, or maybe even the hour of, that it really hit me, and it hit me pretty hard. But yeah, so I was scared, but I'm so glad I did it. So
I bet you are, because
yes,
you get to live with this guy for the rest of your life, right?
yes, absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so how about what was your scare factor, Chance? Were you scared?
Yeah, I was extremely scared through the whole process. I don't think I really told her, how scared I was before, because I didn't want her to be as scared as I was. The fear of the unknown is probably the hardest part.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously they have all the statistics, and it's so rare that anything goes wrong, but still that small chance is always there, and it really scared me to have her go under and do something like that for me. So
Who was your surgeon? And what
um,
hospital?
I had Dr. Shin at
Methodist.
You were
Methodist.
at Methodist, right?
Yeah, and I had Dr. Bingaman.
Bingham. Great. Dr. Bingham's in charge of the program.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's
I was transplanted there 33 years ago.
right.
Yeah, so when we talk, that's what I've been told you.
Yes.
These folks do this all day long. They don't do anything else. This is what they do. This is what they live for. And so consequently, the outcomes are really good. And it was. You both had a really relatively easy recovery. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, for her, I think it was a little more than she expected.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I probably annoyed her more than anything, because I was feeling so good trying to run around, and she was still wanting to recover a little more. But
I have two questions, because I don't want to lose these questions right now. Okay, you said you felt. When did you start feeling good? You had surgery. When did you start feeling good?
me, the day of, I mean, when I woke up, I was still groggy, and the
Yes.
next day sitting in the hospital, they were like, "You want to get up and walk?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do whatever we
It's
can."
amazing. It's amazing, isn't it? You
Definitely.
just, golly, how it. Okay, now here's your question, Ashleigh. When you woke up, you were in a whole different world than what he actually was, because I'll bet you had pain. You had lots of pain, and you were uncomfortable, right? Because a lot of people, well, don't worry, yeah, you'll have pain. Tell me about that.
No, it was definitely a little bit more than I was prepared for. I was told by different people that I was put into contact with that it was just mostly chest pain from the gas that they pump into your abdomen, but it was definitely a lot more than what I was expecting. I think if you have had kids in the past, it wouldn't be so bad, but I've never had kids, so I've never experienced such great pain in my stomach.
Yep.
So, well, at least that's what I had heard, that a lot of people compared it to having a cesarean. So it was definitely tough for me. And then having Chance there, it was kind of like a conflicting emotions, because he was literally running laps around me, and I was laying on the couch, like just watching him back and forth, back and forth.
Well, he's ready to go back to work. He was living.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, you have a GFR of 7. In most places you'd have been on dialysis.
Right.
Fortunately for you, your physician was knowledgeable enough and knew that you could handle it, and you felt good, and that's the reason you did. Right. And your pain and discomfort, Ashleigh, I'm sure you would like to tell people about that. And that's where we have people that call all the time, well, what's it like to be like a donor? I think I'm going to give him your name, because you can tell him, and you tell him the truth, right?
Right, absolutely. No, it's definitely not a pain that, like, I guess it's different for everybody. It was it was just a walk in the park, but it didn't last forever. And I think just at that time, I couldn't see the end, and so it felt a lot worse. But once the pain was gone, it was gone. And I mean, that's when the real joy started.
Right. Then you could hug him, right? Listen, that's a really important part, because it does go away. It doesn't last forever.
Yes.
And all the donors that I've talked to, including my brother, and he had surgery where they cut him open. Okay. Yeah. And they took a rib and a half out to get to his kidney. And I'll tell you exactly what he told me when he came in my room. He said, "What the hell did you get me into?" See, so yeah, it does. It's different strokes. It's so much easier now, but that doesn't mean it's not painful. It is painful. And thank you for telling people that, because I don't want anybody to go in and think it's going to be a piece of cake. You got to recover from it. It's a good, major surgery. Yeah. So Ashleigh, do you feel like you've lost something?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's so funny because I say all the time, like, Chance and I had been dating for about 5 years. We've been married for a little over 2. But I guess I never really knew my husband until the last 6 months have been so crazy. Like, I feel like I'm getting to know him all over again because the disease really did affect his personality because he felt so bad all the time. And now he's so silly and we have so much fun. Not that we didn't have fun together before, but like he initiates like jokes and he's goofy and it's like being married to somebody new. So
he's Chance Eckert.
yes.
Right? He's the
Yes.
Chance Eckert you met. And
Yes.
he progressed. And he's a very sick man.
Mhm.
Now, I want to just give you a set of advice here. And if people are listening, and I know they do listen, this is not going to be like nothing's ever going to happen to you. You guys are going to have bumps in the road. Don't forget that. Please don't forget that. But at least you've got a healthy kidney, Chance, where you are going to have, you got a leg up now. If you had to face him with a GFR of 7, you wouldn't do well. So consequently, live your life. You know what I mean? Get on down the road. Do good things, and that's what I want you to do. I want you to be happy that you got the transplant. And Ashleigh, for sure, it's amazing that you would do this because donors are hard to come by, let alone living donors, let alone connected married living donors. Mm-hmm. It happens, but it's pretty rare. All right. So Chance, what would you tell someone who was needing to find a donor? What would you tell them from the bottom of your heart?
Be your own advocate. Don't be scared to ask, I guess. Try to get out there and network. We went on Facebook and there's nothing against anybody that tells you they're going to do something. And, the hospital is not going to tell me how many people actually got tested and everything else, but,
right.
We had a lot of support right off the bat. But when it comes down to it, don't get discouraged. We had 3 other people go through the process that got ruled out for different medical reasons before my wife finally went through. And so, with COVID, I believe talking to other people before COVID, they were testing 3 people at a time. And so when it came to, I believe after COVID, they were only doing 1 person at a time.
For lack of exposure. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And so, we went through quite a few people and it took quite a bit of time getting everybody in for that before she went through. And so,
well, mentoring is a very important part of this whole process. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing at Kidney Solutions. So, you need to realize that you can't do this by yourself.
No.
Right.
Yeah. And that was the hardest part for me, I believe, going through, meeting all the people during some of the classes. You meet some people that there's nobody there for them, and it's pretty tough to see that, especially when we went through this. And I was in January, so it was before COVID when we first went through the class.
Right, I remember that.
February. And so they let me bring in, pretty much my whole family. They were like, bring in whoever's a potential donor now, and we'll do their blood work while you're there. And I think I had 10 people with me that day.
Yep.
And so that felt awesome. But then, I was in class and there were people there that didn't even have anybody, and they were young too, my age, and they were there by themselves. And it kind of, that's hard to see, and it's hard to imagine even going through it by yourself. So.
And there are some out there, unfortunately, that can't have a transplant. Right. We forget that really quick. And I my heart goes out to them. I just lost a really good friend who had been transplanted twice, and he wasn't going to be seeing the 3rd one. He passed last week. So this is not tiddlywinks. This is a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Definitely.
All right. So Ashleigh, here's one more question for you. It's a good one. Do you feel any different since you gave the kidney, physically, mentally, emotionally?
No, not that I can pinpoint just to being because I donated a kidney. I definitely have a bigger soft spot for my husband than I did before.
Yeah, I love it.
And I love to use it as a,
Yeah.
Leverage.
Yeah, exactly. I've been married for 51 years to the gal who walked me through this thing.
Yep.
She's out cooking right now, cooking some chili. And I'm going to tell you what, your bond is unbelievable. Whenever you think about how hard your life is right now, just remember what it was like, Chance, when you were sick.
Right.
Yeah. And Ashleigh, you just remember what it was like knowing that you could help him. All right.
Yeah.
And now he has the responsibility, the living responsibility to take care of you. All right. And so you have to focus on making sure your marriage gets really strong. All right. Yeah. And that to me, if I give any advice to you, it is that you continue to love each other and realize what you did, Ashleigh, is hero worship for sure. I worship you for doing it. And Chance, I'm glad that you saw the need to get this taken care of before you went on dialysis. You're going to be questioned about that the rest of your life. Well, why did you're at 28, why didn't you go on dialysis? Or you know, what was the reason you decided to have a transplant? Why didn't you go on dialysis? You don't know who's going to tell you. You read about it, somebody may ask you. So in your heart, you have to have a pretty good answer for them. Why did you have a transplant?
Why did I have a transplant? I'll tell you, to me, for 8 years, you know, I've known. And so in my head, I knew that I did not want to go on dialysis no matter what it took. My doctor, you know, I had the same doctor through the whole process, still have the same nephrologist. And I think that's a huge thing. If you can stick with one doctor, you find one you like, stick with them. You know, he knew my case through and through. And the whole time he told me, we don't want you on dialysis no matter what. We've got to get it done before you have to go on dialysis because you'll be better off in the end. And really it's true. You know, I could stay working. I took my 3 months off and now I'm back at work and feel great. You know, and my GFR from right after surgery was a my creatinine was a 1.6 and now it's coming down still. So I think that has a lot to do with it, is just trying to keep my life moving forward and not letting this stop me as much as I can. So
I want to encourage you to call me whenever you need me. All right.
Definitely.
And I want you both to do that. Ashleigh, if you have any questions, not for me, but for a donor, I have several donors that I would just love to have you talk to. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll give you what it's like to, you know, some of them are registered nurses. Some of them are just plain stay-at-home moms. Of course, everybody's a stay-at-home mom, including me now with COVID. But I guess the most important thing is that you need to have a mentor, in my opinion. You need somebody you can talk to because you can't always get to the transplant team. All right. So I'm here for you, and we'll invite you. You know, we have a support group on Mondays just for kidney transplant patients or those looking for it. And I'm going to invite you to that. And so I just think this is a relationship here that's going to grow, and you're going to both of you are going to help a lot of people, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, we definitely want to, you know, especially with how much better I'm feeling now and everything else. It's something that I would like to take on and try to help as much as we can. You know, if you ever had somebody, I'll answer my phone. Just let me know that they're going to be wanting to talk, and I'll definitely talk to anybody.
Well, I'm going to tell you that's exactly what's going to happen. All right. And the same way with you, Ashleigh. There are several people that'll say, I don't know anything about it. Well, what's it do? I said, well, I didn't do it, so let me get you somebody who did.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that.
Okay.
I've been looking for different ways to advocate for kidney donation, and my Facebook doesn't seem to be cutting it. So
well, no, listen, you know what? God's intentions are for us to give. Mm-hmm. And just being there, at some point in time, you don't have to, quote, solicit it or check. They will come to you. He'll send them to you.
Right.
God has a way of sending donors to people. He has a way of sending advocates to people. He always has an answer for you. Just depends on how fast you want it to happen. Okay. In your case, when I hear somebody, I'm going to have them contact you. All right. Some say they will and don't, and some don't want to it takes them for a while, maybe a couple weeks, but then they do. And then I really think it would be great if you would come on to the support group. That's where people need you at this point in time. Just come on. We're on for about an hour, and you can take it anywhere. It's by Zoom, so there you go. It's just like we're essentially doing now, and people would just love. You'd be surprised how much hope it gives people who are looking for a kidney to hear from people like you. All right. They're not jealous that you had a transplant. They're not at all. They're just amazed at how easy it can be and how much fun it is to be in love like you guys are. And it's amazing to me what's going on. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. So do you have anything else that you would like to discuss? I know I missed a whole bunch. We could probably talk along. But what's the most important thing to you right now in your hearts?
Man, I'll tell you what, for me, just making sure that you're taking care of your body and just listening to your body after the transplant, before the transplant, everything, before, like I said, we were at 7% and I was working still, and I left a few days early just because they had told me before that hitch, which, is my 2-week period that I'm at work. They had said, look, you can't get below a certain percent because then we can't transplant you. You're going to have to go with this, and you're going to have to get better before we can transplant you. And so, there was one day I was there, felt terrible. I believe I threw up that day, which normally doesn't happen. And so I told my boss, I was like, look, I've got to go. And luckily I work for a company that's behind me 100% with that. And so, they had somebody out there that night. I went home and took a few days off and got with the doctors and did what we had to do. But even then, after transplant, there's been a few small things, swelling that I wasn't expecting to see. And I know I called you about that, and I was scared to death about it, and just stuff like that, if you ever have questions, just make sure and get with whoever you have to get with and try to figure it out and get it taken care of. Because the most important thing, especially, for anybody, but for me, I live with the person who gave me this kidney, and it's a gift that I have to take care of. And so, I try my best to take care of it, and whatever I have to do to call and figure out what's wrong right away. So
you're welcome to do that. Ashleigh, how about you? One last shot.
Well, I guess it's just important for me to say that, I don't know really how to articulate it in the best way, but I was telling Chance all the time, from a little bit before surgery and then up until today and every day, like just how much, how prevalent God's presence has been throughout the whole, from the point that I made my decision to day-to-day life. Every time little things will happen, and I just tell him that's a God thing. It has to be a God thing.
Yes.
So, it's not necessarily that we were a match made in heaven, that I was a match for him or anything like that, because science is so great. But I do believe that my decision to become a donor in the first place was all God. So I think that is super important, just to make sure that you're listening and doing what your heart is pulling you to do, because there's a reason for it.
He's talking to you, isn't he? He talked to you, didn't he?
He definitely was talking to me, absolutely.
And you were listening.
Yes.
A lot of people don't listen, just like you just got done saying. That's a great takeaway point, because listening is so important in this, because most people don't want to ask. And if they start asking, people listen. Okay. And that's what I'll work you into that, Chance. There's a place in the Kidney Solution home for you guys. Believe me, it's going to happen. All right. All right. I'm going to kind of wind this down. I want to thank you a lot. And I want you to come to the support group if you can, when you have time to do that.
Me too.
And then I got your number. Don't forget that. And you have mine.
Anytime.
Right. Okay. Let me just close off here, folks, by saying you want to know what it's like to give a kidney to a loved one or to a friend. All you got to do is call Kidney Solutions. We'll work with you. We'll get you a chance to be a donor and make somebody's life complete with a transplant. And if you're looking for a transplant right now, you can call Kidney Solutions. We'll help you with it. No charge. We're free. There is no charge at all. I just want you to know one thing too, that protection is your most important point. Sometimes we didn't talk about this tonight, but this COVID is not over yet. I want you to protect yourselves as the best you can. You mask up, distance, and keep your doctor's appointments. Do what you're supposed to be doing. If you do all that and you've had a transplant, everything's going to rock along just fine because God's got you. You want to donate a kidney, that's going to go well too because God's got you. Just remember that. Until the next time we talk, keep breathing.